And there's a term called the buyback, which is where you actually delegate something to someone and then you go, oh, hang on, I need to check. So you're literally buying the task back because they can't do anything while you're going, let me check, or let me talk to someone else, or let's brainstorm this together. Micromanaging is a really key sign that you're not delegating effectively.
Welcome to the Kind Boss podcast, brought to you by Outsourcing Angel, an Australian-based social enterprise that specializes in helping business owners free up their time and reduce staffing costs while helping to create employment opportunities for people in developing countries. Visit outsourcingangel.com today. Now, let me welcome your host, Linh Podetti.
Hello, kind listeners. I'm your host, Linh Podetti. Today, we'll be speaking to a kind boss, Maree Burgess, a delegation expert. Obsessed with the art of delegation and the way it drives results, Maree knows exactly what is required to equip leaders with advanced delegation techniques and to create environments where staff turn up invested in common success. With a career ranging from being a registered nurse at a major Melbourne trauma hospital, followed by several senior roles in banking, to over 16 years as an expert behavioral consultant, Maree is equipped with the knowledge to connect with and inspire any mix of people. Listen on as she shares her tips on how to delegate effectively and build a company that everyone is excited to come to work for. Hi everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Kind Boss series. And today I have Maree Burgess. How are you today?
I'm great, thanks, Lynn.
Thanks so much for your patience. And I made a bit of mistake pronouncing your name. Your name is kind of spelled Maree, but it's Maree. But anyway, it's kind of a funny blooper at the beginning. But I really wanted to talk to you today because I love delegation. I mean, I was taught to delegate from a very young age. My mum was a big delegator, always delegating work to me. And I realized that, to me, delegation was kind of instilled in me. Like I was born with it almost, or like kind of raised up with it. So I never had a struggle with delegation. But I have come across so many business owners because of the line of work I do. It's all about delegating work to your virtual assistant. And I just see so many people struggle with it. Whereas I couldn't explain kind of like, well, you just delegate, right? When I came across you and you're a delegation expert, I'm like, I got to talk because I know that you're going to bring today real expertise around this topic because I can't explain it as good as you do. So, yeah.
Thanks, Lynn.
So Maree, what made you decide to get into delegation? Like, what was there a challenge that you experienced and then got you here, or what was that journey like?
All right, so I'm going to take a step back before I dive into that. And I love the example of learning to delegate, that to delegate for your mum. Because I grew up on a farm and everyone, and I'm one of 4 children, so everyone just pitches in to do the chores. And so my mum was a great delegator as well, certainly household chores, cleaning the bathroom, all that sort of stuff. But even out on the farm, we all had to pitch in and do our chores. And the work that really meant that Dad didn't need to hire people because he had people to give that work to. So I love that analogy. I guess I've been really focusing on delegating probably about the last 12 months. I've focused on leadership and I've focused on teams for a long time, and I've got a lot of books around. Well, I've got 2 books about that. It's I had the realization that one of the biggest stumbling blocks, and I want to come back to why I think what we do together works so well, but I primarily work with corporations. And what I see in corporations is all of these people pretty much operating at the wrong level, meaning that they might have a job, but they're actually still in the doing. They might have a team of people, but they're still in the doing because they can't let go of what they wanted to let go. And they're too busy. They're running from meetings to meetings and just not having time to do anything. So I really started to hone in on this was one skill that if people actually learnt to do, because I'm like you, I just assumed you just delegate it. I have had a working life all my life and people just give me stuff to do. I just assumed everyone knew how to do that, and they actually don't. And there's a whole range of reasons, and I blog about it all the time of why people don't delegate. And then of course with your company, what I love about it is that the market that I do not focus on is the sole traders or the solo entrepreneurs who are also, and I'm a sole trader as well, but I'm pretty good at delegating out, and yet I see so many people drowning in the doing. So the fact that you're there helping us develop our skills to delegate our work so we can actually get on with the more important parts of our business is gold.
Yeah. So that's so interesting in that I thought that corporations who have teams kind of delegate. So you're telling me that although they have the teams, they're actually still holding on to work and not giving it to their team. Like why is that the case?
Yeah. So it can go in a couple of ways. So first of all, if you look at the person who's really good, really technically good at something, and so the organisation wants to reward them because they're very, very good at what they do. So they promote them. And what happens when we get promoted out of what we're very good at doing is suddenly we get promoted to a more senior role and we have to actually lead people. And so we've actually lost what we were really good at, and that makes us not feel so great. And so a lot of people who aren't taught that they've actually got to step up and actually change what they do will keep doing the technical stuff. And when they're doing that, what they're doing is they're pushing their team down, because suddenly what their team is supposed to be doing is being done by their boss. And so everyone starts operating at the wrong level. So that's one reason that they need the support. On the surface, people might go, yeah, but they're doing all right. But when you really dig into what they're doing, they're probably going to meetings they could delegate, or they're setting up meetings that they don't need to set up, or they're actually doing the stuff that they used to love. A lot of people I work with a lot of senior leaders in not-for-profits, but in also medium-sized organisations. And you look at what they're doing, and so they're drowning in business. Like they're literally drowning in business. Everyone is so busy these days. Actually, when I say these days, I'm really talking pre-COVID-19, because I think the whole balance has changed. People are still very busy, but it's sort of changed somewhat. But the people I was working with, say last year, would be going, but my team are too busy. I can't give them extra stuff to do. So then it's working out, all right, so we really need to look at what are you doing? What are your team doing? And let's just see if it's all necessary. So there's not one reason that people don't delegate. There's a whole myriad of reasons.
Yeah. And so what would be the benefits if they do delegate? Like let's if you could go through some of those points so that people go, oh yeah, well, my life could be that way if I actually delegate.
Well, again, looking at corporations, the whole benefit is productivity will lift, because it's almost like that saying, a rising tide lifts all boats. If the leader lifts and rises up to doing what they should be doing, they're going to bring their team up with them. So suddenly everyone is doing, more important is the wrong way to describe it. It's more focused work and what they should be doing. So suddenly the leader is doing the work they're being paid to do, and their team are doing the work they're being paid to do. And they're also, as people get more senior, the balance between looking down into your team and seeing what your team are doing and looking up out of the organisation or up beyond your business unit changes. And so as you get more senior, you have to learn to be able to lift your eyes up and look out rather than always being down in the detail.
Yeah, gotcha. So, I mean, when it comes to delegation too, have you come across people who may not want to delegate because they kind of don't want to let go of the control and that kind of power? Or what are some of the kind of reasons that are not, you don't normally talk about because it's kind of like subconscious and psychologically?
So again, a whole heap of reasons, and some people will talk about a lot of them, but the ones they won't talk about are the ones where they're secretly afraid that actually if they delegate some of their work, their team may do it better, and that doesn't look great. Although in my mind, I think that's a great result. Or if they delegate the work and their team does it better, suddenly the organisation or their boss thinks, oh, you're actually not as good as we thought you were. Where that actually doesn't happen. That isn't what our bosses are thinking. They're actually thinking, oh, at last you're focusing on what you want to do. So yeah, I have a huge list of reasons why people don't delegate. From they don't believe their team have got time. They don't want to feel like they're giving their team the grunt work.
That's an interesting,
the flip side of delegating is when I hear people, particularly team-based members, say, we don't know what our boss does because we do all their work. I'm working with someone at the moment who has someone in their team, that person's team keep coming to my client saying, we don't know what that person is doing because we're doing all the work. And so there's a balance between delegating everything, but also making sure that you're making it transparent what everyone is doing.
Yeah, I agree with you because unless that, if you're not communicating, okay. So first of all, my first question is in big corporations, when that person is being promoted to the next thing, is it a responsibility of the person who promoted them to tell them that, okay, I want you to be doing these things and these are your new KPIs, and then obviously you're able to delegate your old work to them, or is it really the case of they usually expect that person that just got promoted to go and start to think of new ways to grow the business or to add value? Yeah, what is usually the case?
Yeah, so it's usually the case that when someone is promoted, remembering they're being promoted because they want the job, they've applied for it, they're really good at what they do. And so the expectation is that they'll just be able to effortlessly lead at that new level. I think and this is an old study, I haven't seen any recent study, but from about, I don't know, 9 or 10 years ago, there was a study that basically said that only about 28% of people have any training in delegation, or whatever that means for people. And when you think about that, that's a lot of people in roles that actually may understand the word delegation, but have never thought how it applies to their role. Because the other thing is, you get so used to operating at a level and everything hangs together, no one's really thriving. And so that becomes a new norm. And now, if you can imagine, if there's a large organisation and that's a widespread issue that everyone's operating at the wrong level, the productivity and the success of that organisation has to diminish. And that's a scary thing. So that's why we need to lift everyone to the right level and get them to understand what delegation is all about.
Yeah.
So that person's boss actually is responsible for making sure they're equipped to lead at the right level.
Got what you mean. So in an ideal world moving forward, as an employer, or especially the bigger you are as an organization, the more you got to really put this effort in, because it could create a lot of work politics, I assume, right? And a lot of issues with communication. So when you're promoting someone, you need to also provide training when it comes to delegation and productivity, prioritizing your work, so that they could transition to the new role better. Not just doing the technical skill, but knowing how to delegate with a thing. When it comes to delegation, my mindset has always been, this is my chance to empower someone else, to teach someone else, to bring them up and grow as I grow. That is one positive mindset that I have around that. So what are the other mindsets or things that you have to tell yourself in order to succeed in delegation?
The delegation is like the tiny tip of the iceberg of leadership, and it's a big lever that really sets them up for success. And you usually don't hear people saying, our boss doesn't delegate well, or my boss saying to me, you're not delegating well. So that tends not to be the terms bandied around. There's a whole heap of other things like, I wish our boss would get off our back, he's really micromanaging us. Or we don't know what our boss is doing. We don't see them. We're just doing all this work and we don't even know if it's the right work. So there's a whole heap of other stories and things said around whether delegation is there or not. And really, I haven't found any specific delegation programs when I started doing my delegation workshops and coaching. But the one thing that some organisations are very aware of is they need to get their leaders extra development, extra support, whether that's coaching or workshops or leadership development or whatever it is that they're providing. And one of the first things that I'll do if I'm working with someone, particularly on a one-on-one basis, is helping them understand that their mindset has to be different from what it was in their old role. And that can be sometimes a bit challenging to grasp. But even that understanding is enough for them to go, oh, I need to work differently.
Can you give me an example of that change in mindset?
Well, it's again thinking about being able to let go of the detail, being able to, trust is huge. It's very hard to delegate, and you'll find this in your business. It is very hard for you, the owners that use your services, to delegate if they don't trust the people they're delegating to. So there's a bit of that, working it out period. How good are they at this? Can they do that? To try and find people's boundaries. We need to do that when we come look at corporations as well, that a leader has to really understand the team, and they have to build up that trust, and the team have to trust them as well, because I'm not going to do something for you if you want to delegate something to me if I don't trust you.
Gotcha.
Because maybe you'll take the credit for what I do and all that sort of stuff. So good delegation firstly requires trust. It also requires that transparency. It really requires fantastic communication skills. So it's almost like delegation is the one thing, and then all of these other things flow off it, that you almost need in place to be a good delegator.
Okay, so in summary, it's sort of delegate. People don't go out there complaining, I have a delegation problem, but they do complain that I'm really busy and I don't know how, I don't trust giving my work to someone else, or I'm going to do it better than that person. So these are all the things that they would complain about, but it comes down to learning the art of delegation.
Pretty much.
Pretty much. Awesome.
I love it.
Want to make a difference in others' lives? Join us in providing food, medical supplies, and daily living necessities to tribal communities living in extreme poverty in the Philippines. For as little as $50, you can feed a whole village and have peace of mind that 100% of your donations goes directly to those in need. Be a part of our OA Love projects and visit outsourcingangel.com.
Well, before I go on to asking more questions, I want to break it up with this high five personal questions. This is called the this or that part. And I'm just going to throw you 5 questions. You're going to choose between this or that so that we get to know a little bit about yourself without you having to talk about yourself, right? So, and just say your choice and do elaborate a little bit so that we get to understand a bit about your choice. Okay, number 1 is movies at home or at the cinemas?
Ooh, gold class at the cinemas.
Oh, I love it. Me too.
Love to lie back with a glass of wine and have food brought to me and watch a great movie.
Me too. Like now that I'm a bit older, I'm like, if I go, it has to be that experience. It's not just to watch a movie. Yeah.
Although having said that, it's definitely movies at home at the moment.
This is prior to COVID or after COVID. Yeah. Well, yeah, your choice would be that. Singing or dancing?
Probably neither. Go out to dance, and I certainly don't go out to sing. No, probably neither.
What would you prefer watching then?
What would I prefer watching? I actually like watching both. I watch all of those live shows of, Dancing with the Stars and Blind Audition or whatever it's called and all of those sort of things. So, yeah.
Okay, both. All right, I'll give that away then, because usually I'm very tough. I'm like, you got to choose one, sing or dancing. But I'm like, all right, I'm going to be nice today. Okay, number 3, courage or discipline?
You absolutely need the discipline. But when you're in your own business, you've got to have lots of courage.
Yeah, I agree. I think courage gets you through a lot of challenges in life, like the COVID right now. Yeah. Number 4, flowers or plants?
Flowers.
Yeah.
I love flowers. I'm so not a gardener, although I do like a nice looking garden, but I do love getting flowers.
How often do you buy flowers?
Well, I used to go through a stage of buying them every week. I get my house feng shuied, and so one year it was like, you need fresh flowers in the house. So I had this gorgeous excuse to buy flowers every week. It's probably less often now, maybe every month to 6 weeks I'll buy flowers.
I even buy myself flowers delivered to my house and write a little card to myself, hi Lynn, and just because I'm like
that.
Yeah, so I really like flowers, but my husband always forget to buy me flowers. They're just men, they're not thoughtful. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to buy myself flowers. And I went through a stage where I just ordered it, and it still surprises me when it comes at the door.
I have a son that occasionally buys me flowers, but certainly not my husband or other son.
Yeah. All right. Final question: helicopter ride or a yacht?
Ooh, helicopter.
Yeah.
It's just more exciting.
You've been in one? No,
but I've been in quite a few small planes, and I love that experience because you're really quite low to the ground. You can see so much more. Yeah.
I'm on the opposite for you. I'm a little bit scared of helicopters, so I haven't been to one. Thank you so much. All right, let's get back to talking about delegation. So we did cover a lot when it comes to corporations, and that was a big learning experience for me too, because I didn't really work in corporates for a long time. I worked for a few years, and I'm like, I need to have my own business. So when it comes to smaller business, do you have much experience with them, and do you feel like they're a lot different to the challenges in corporations, or they're quite similar?
It's not my customer base. However, I've got quite a big network of people who do work for themselves. They all will have a virtual VA or a business manager who's actually remote, or a combination of both of those. And so, and again, for them, it is absolutely a skill to learn what they can let go of. It still has to come back to trust and building that relationship with whoever they're hiring, whether it's on an occasional basis or a permanent ongoing basis. But by and large, we can't do what we do really well unless we learn to delegate as a solo operator. Definitely.
Yeah.
So probably
yeah.
even more important. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I mean, if you're a solopreneur, especially, there is no threat that this person's going to do a better job, right? It's usually the
You actually
opposite.
want them to do it.
But why is it that, because from my experience, I still find that they think they do a better job than them and they just can't let it go. So they might have someone, you already paid for this person. Why wouldn't you want to make the best use of them and start delegating? And yet it's just so hard to let go.
Yeah. Again, a whole heap of reasons. And this also applies whether it's a corporation or a small business or a solo operator. But it's things like, oh, look, it's just quicker and faster to do it myself. Or there's nuances to this that only I really understand. It'll take too long to explain. I really want to maintain the relationship with my customers. I don't want a third party building those relationships. So there's a lot of fear behind those reasons, but it's faster to do it myself and it'll take too long to explain are really the two biggest ones that I see.
Yeah. And do you find that it could happen whether you're hiring someone local or hiring overseas? It's like if you have that kind of mindset, it doesn't matter if that talent is here or anywhere, right?
And again, I haven't got a lot of experience with working with people who use, as in I haven't got a lot of experience with what they're doing with their VAs or business managers remotely. But yeah, I think it's particularly with a company like yours that does the sourcing, trains up the virtual assistants or the business managers and everything like that. I don't think there's any difference whether people are sourcing them onshore or offshore.
It's just a matter of delegation, a matter of trying. And so do you think it's kind of like a muscle you build? You got to start to just trust and know that, well, what's the worst case, right? Like they're going to do it wrong, then you just teach them again. And then, but the longer you work with someone, you'll get used and familiar. It's just like they will learn about you, you learn about them, and then it will get easier, right? And
but it's also about, because I think there's a bit more turnover in the virtual people that we use to support our business. So I also think it's about actually understanding how you do something, because then once you understand it, you can teach people. So that really means, like for years, I was so ad hoc and I'd literally recreate everything from scratch every time I went to do something again. And it took me a long time to get quite disciplined at setting up the procedures and setting up the processes. But once they're in place, it's literally just drag and drop and build the relationship, check what expertise I have, because everyone has different skills. But if you've got procedures and saying, this is what I do, here's some nuances to watch out for, then it's so much easier to let that go.
And what would be your tip for someone that kind of like, okay, you might have given the task to your staff member or VA, but then you're caught in watching over them and wanting to make sure that it's as perfect as what you do. And it defeats the purpose that you freed up those hours to actually do more strategic things or things that's going to bring value to your business. So yeah, what's your take on that?
I guess the biggest take is when we delegate something, we need to be very clear. Anyone who delegates need to be very clear on the outcome. So we need to know what we want to get to at the end, but actually how we get there or how the other person gets there will be different. So let them go and do it their way. If they're already competent, they've already got the capability, they will do it differently to us, and that's okay. And this is where micromanaging really comes into the fore, because someone will delegate something, but they're not just delegating, this is what I want at the end. They're delegating, and this is how I want you to do it. And so then they're watching over their shoulder going, no, I said this way or I said that way. And there's a term called the buyback, which is where you actually delegate something to someone and then you go, oh, hang on, I need to check. So you're literally buying the task back because they can't do anything while you're going, let me check, or let me talk to someone else, or let's brainstorm this together. Micromanaging is a really key sign that you're not delegating effectively.
I see. So you're saying that if you're delegating something, it's really important to kind of let that person know what your ultimate result or outcome looks like. Like, this is what success looks like. And although you would still say you can still give instruction, but not be caught up in exactly how you do it. Right. And then, but then of course you can have, I guess, some reporting mechanism going, report back and let me know your progress, but not watching over them. too much.
So there's a thing where you can delegate tasks that are repetitive, and so it's almost like once the task is outlined and delegated, how the person achieves that task is really up to them. But that's a repeat task. When it's a project that you want, then you would work together to go, this is the outcome we want to get to, and you'd set milestones up along the way so that you would do those check-ins. You also set the authority levels, because, so for instance, if I'm setting up a webinar and I get someone to do my Eventbrite setup and everything like that, they can't publish that until I've had a chance to go and review it, make sure the pricing's right and all of that sort of stuff. Now, of course, the more often I do that, the less that control happens. But it's like I have to make sure the person I'm delegating to knows what the level of authority is. And that will vary depending on the person's experience, the person's capability, what their skill base is. You know, some people are shocking at typing, they have so many errors. So you might have a different checking mechanism for people like that. Yeah, so you're providing the support required for that person to achieve the goal, making sure that you're not stepping over that micromanaging line, which again is a bit of a fine line at times.
Yeah, but I definitely think it's all worth it in the end, because like right now I've built my business to the point where I can actually walk away from it and not working it. I don't have to work in the business. Now, if I never kind of delegated and start building that team, I would always be stuck in that.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's like kind of the big picture, because I think a lot of small business owner, they're like, oh, but I can just do it myself. But if you want to be in the same place and always everything on you, then so be it. But if you want a better life, you got to delegate. Like, it's the kind of the best skill set ever. So how do people work with you? Okay. So actually, before I go to that question, actually, has there been a change in challenge, especially when it came to, because you used to, I guess, help corporations physical form, like they were working in offices and with delegation. Now that they're working remotely, have you had different questions and different challenges?
I haven't had different questions as such. There's definitely different challenges. I mentioned trust earlier. That's really raised its head over the last 4 or 5 weeks around, people I'm working with saying, I'm not coping very well because I can't see my team. I can't see what they're doing. I don't trust that they're doing what they should. And I just sit there and go, why does it matter whether you're sitting beside them watching what they do or they're at home if they're still being productive, achieving the outcomes and everything like that? So trust is an issue for people who are distance delegating, and helping them work through that. So then again, it might be just they set up different check-in procedures or they set up different meeting procedures, again, without overwhelming people, because people are actually busier working remotely than they were before because they've got so many more Zoom meetings. There's all these check-ins and all that sort of stuff. So finding that balance has been challenging. It's starting to settle. I think it's starting to settle. I think people are working from home pretty nicely now. I guess the other challenge is what happens when the reins loosen, and then working out how do we then work together again. So yeah, I'm doing a lot of blogs about distance delegating at the moment, but it's same, but a bit different.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. Thank you. So how would people work more with you? I know you're the delegation expert, and I always tell people, like, the biggest thing I regret when I was starting out in business is not paying for information. I rather now kind of just, get straight to the expert and get the right answers. Otherwise we just spend years of just figuring things out and making mistakes. So yeah, what are the ways, how can people engage with you or work with you?
So they can find me on my website, mareeburgess.com, and it is MareeBurgess.com, which will tell you what I do. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm always on LinkedIn, so people can find me on LinkedIn as well. And if people do want to go and get my delegation white paper, they can go to mareeburgess.com/white paper and sign up for that delegation white paper and literally find out my 7 steps to go from being a doer to a delegator.
Yeah, freedom. Awesome.
I know.
Yeah. I have 2 final questions for you. One is, what does a kind boss mean to you?
Look, a kind boss, and I've been so fortunate. I've had my own business for nearly 20 years now, but I have been so fortunate before that with the teams I worked in that most of my bosses were kind. But that means being firm but fair. It means trusting me but setting the boundaries for for what I could do within those boundaries. A kind boss means knowing a little bit about me and understanding what my strengths and skills, without obviously going overboard, but it's almost like not a friendship, it's just someone that's a great guide.
Love it. Yeah. I love when I ask this question because everyone has their own way of explaining it. And it's just always beautiful to hear because it's kind of that ideal person and boss that you always want to work with. My last question is, what do you want to be remembered for?
I want to be remembered for helping organisations create teams where people want to come to work. We have such low engagement scores. Let's lift them up so people actually enjoy doing what they do.
Yeah, we spend so much of our time at work, and it just needs to be some place that we want it to be a playground, right? And Maree's here to help to make it a playground. Thank you so much for being on our show today. I hope you've enjoyed yourself, and yeah, thank you for being here.
Thanks, Lynn. I loved your questions and I love chatting with you.
Thanks.
Thank you for joining our podcast today. We hope this interview has inspired and humbled you to be a kind boss. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel and let us know what you think about our show. If you have any questions, please visit outsourcingangel.com. Until then, stay kind and spread love.